Oh, no,
The question is...
Mr Chairman.
The Honourable Peter Dunn.
Mr Chairman, let me respond to some of the points that have been raised during the course of the debate so far. Can I begin by acknowledging the support for the general principle of the bill that most members of the House have espoused. This is a constructive piece of legislation, and I acknowledge the general support that it has received. The issue that has attracted the most interest is around Clause 6, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And I also want to address the point about harm reduction issues. And I need to say to the committee that I'm in a somewhat unusual position, that as the Minister of Internal Affairs, I am the regulator. As the Associate Minister of Health, I am the Minister responsible for problem gambling issues, which puts me in a unique position that I have to talk to myself constantly. And that's quite relevant in this particular discussion. With regard to Clause 6, which is the issue that has exercised the committee, what Clause 6 in effect does is open the possibility for commission payments. It does not per se introduce commission payments. What we are doing is changing the venue payment system, which is inefficient and clunky and outmoded and very complicated, to a more facilitative arrangement which will be devised through consultation with the sector, with the Problem Gambling Foundation, and with anyone else who has a particular view to express. We have not finalised decisions on that model, but we want to leave open a range of possibilities. Now, I also want to acknowledge that in my health role, that there are serious issues relating to problem gambling, and I am not in favour of using a commission-based system to incentivise further gambling opportunities. But when we have, as a result of the 2003 Act, a national sinking lid, when we have work that is required as part of that legislation every 3 years to set a problem gambling levy, to set in place a program of work that has to be done regarding harm minimisation and related issues, you've got to look at the total package. And the issues that Mr Lees-Galloway and others have referred to are more appropriately dealt with through the work around the problem gambling levy. We are currently in the process of striking that levy for the next 3 years. The consultations are going on literally as we speak. The recommendations will come back via the Gambling Commission later in the year, and I expect that levy, from memory, will be promulgated in the first quarter of next year for the next 3 years, and a series of activities will be identified as part of that process. So that is where a lot of the issues regarding harm minimisation are likely to be addressed. On the Commission one, as I indicated, this is a facilitative clause. At this point, we will be consulting further about the detail and nature of that before a new payments regime is implemented. But the important point is to get something that is more efficient, more effective and less administratively complex. That brings me to a final point that I want to make, which really underpins this legislation, and I think goes to the point that the Honourable Ruth Dyson was driving at. The speed of change in this environment is intensifying, and what we need to have in our legislative structure is sufficient flexibility to be able to meet new challenges as they emerged. The preceding bill to this, as members joked at the time with a degree of accuracy, took 7 years to pass. This bill's actually far quicker than that, but it's still a long process to change the law every time we meet new situations. And so what we're trying to do here is move to a more streamlined approach where we do have a greater degree of flexibility to meet some of the new challenges that will emerge in the future. I've indicated previously, and I repeat that tonight, that there is further work underway beyond the scope of this legislation, which I expect to come to fruition over the next little while. But, Mr Chairman, just if I can sum up for the committee, we have a situation at the moment where we need to make the gambling industry fair and responsible. We need to deal with the issues around harm minimisation and problem gambling. We have constructive and comprehensive strategies on both. This is the legislative regulatory framework. The other matters are dealt with through other mechanisms. And overall, I believe this bill, as it's before the committee at the moment, is a step forward and ought to be supported.